All right, we're good to go now. So if you have your logo, you can start your brand kit. I do recommend that you pay for Canva. If you're a nonprofit, you know that you can have discount. If you're a teacher, I believe it's free. If you can only pay for 1 month, figure out a plan, rewatch this video and use that service for the month, but it's definitely worth it. The features and functions that are provided to you are so powerful that it's definitely worth the investment. All right. So with your logo, you're going to go to brand and you're going to create a brand kit. This is really important because it's going to help you when you are trying to build out your branding board, which is the next step. And I'm going to try and do all this real life. I did do it pre-recorded. However, just in case there's a glitch or anything like that, we'll still have an option to see the other stuff already done. Okay. And then you want to upload your logo. I'm just going to use this. And what it will do is it will extract the colors that are already in your logo. And so you want to go ahead and hit keep. And then once you have that, if you don't have your fonts, don't worry, you can change these, but it's really helpful when you're building your board to go ahead and create your fonts as well. So the primary font is like your header font. I recommend making something clean and clear and crisp. This way it's very easy to read. It doesn't matter what kind of medium you're using, you're not going to have a problem. So I'm just going to pick this for training purposes. For the subheading, I do like to choose a script font. Be careful with this because sometimes the script fonts don't come out so well. So especially if you're picking something like Caitlin, it can get a little funky in there. Just be mindful that you want to pick something that you can kind of use across all mediums if you don't already have your own font selected for you. And then you want a body style. You want the body style to really be similar to whatever your heading style is, just to kind of keep with that cohesiveness. Okay. And so that's it. That's really what you're going to do. That's your very first step. Get your logo, hit brand, hit add new, and then you're going to hit, oops, sorry, it's going to take me again. You're going to hit branding kit, upload your logo, allow it to pull your brand colors. Some businesses have multiple programs under it, and sometimes we will, reprogram or not reprogram, rebrand a program. Sometimes that can be, pretty difficult. So what we want you guys to do is go in and put program 1 or service 1, whatever that looks like for your business or organization. And then you can add the colors to that program. So I'm just going to add, and it does, I want to also show you, it really will give you kind of complementary colors. So if you don't have one, but you need to make one, it's going to give you some off the bat already that they think looks good together. Here's what I've learned. Trust Canva, they know what they're talking about, right? So that just gives you an idea, because when we start building the branding board, you're going to see the importance of having your logo, your brand colors, your fonts, and any additional color palettes available to you. Okay. So that's step 1. Now let's talk about step 2. Step 2 is creating a branding board. Canva has tons of templates. I suggest just using the templates that they have. Don't make it difficult on yourself. You can always go in and change things up. Here's where most businesses, they kind of skip this part, and it really is a critical part to keep with the aesthetic and stay in alignment with your brand. because you'll reference this branding board often. You'll also share this branding board with other departments, or if you are going to be partnering with a different group or somebody's going to be helping you with your marketing, this is a great place to put all of it. So I tried to pick kind of a difficult business, which is a furniture store. I don't know if I was just feeling like I needed to challenge myself or what, but this is what a branding board looks like. Okay, what you usually have is your primary logo, and then you have alternative logos as well. You should have at least 3 versions of your logo. Sometimes it's in an icon format with text and without. Sometimes it's because you have something that's vertical and you need to do a horizontal version of it. Whatever that looks like, you should have different versions, even if it's just one that's in color and one that's in black and white. Next, you want to make sure that you have the fonts that you use. This is really important because as you start to build out your content, you don't want to be searching or looking for what font you use back here. If you keep it in your branding board, you know what you're going to do with it. This is why it was so important to add it to the branding kit when we first got started. And then the next thing you want is your color palette. It's really important to have more than just 1 or 2 colors in your color palette, because it's going to be extremely difficult when you're trying to reproduce content to make sure that you're in alignment with that aesthetic. And so just to kind of speak to that, in this particular branding board, we see that the primary color, which is here, is used in each photo. This is how you keep the aesthetic of your brand as you're building out your content. Now, this is all the very visual part of it, but I'll show you a little bit later how you're going to add in all the other pieces to that, okay? So the reason that this branding board, again, is important, again, to continue that continuity, is if you start to post images, you can tell there's a big difference in these images. They don't look like they go together. They don't really have the colors. Maybe this one does, but the vibe that you get from this one is much different than the vibe that you get from the other 3. It also doesn't really do a good job of pulling in your colors. So you can see how just having this branding board as a reference point will provide you with the aesthetic you need to kind of cross into different projects that you do. All right. Another thing that's great about having a branding board is you can have an alternate branding board. So sometimes, and again, we're working with a furniture store, sometimes figuring out what your backdrop will be or how your images will be set up. Are you going to have a lot of white space? What will that look like? When you go to do your newsletter, you can pull in images like this to keep with that cohesiveness of your brand. This is also important when you start to create different content. This helps you stay in alignment with whatever your tone or messaging will be. So clearly in this particular branding board, it's very visual, it's photographs, it's not kind of icon-y, it's not cartoony, nothing wrong with cartoony, I love cartoon, but it's different, it's a completely different aesthetic, right? So if you start and you're like, okay, this is more my world, this is more of the aesthetic that I'm going for, keep this aesthetic throughout all of your posts. Another great option is to add in your color palette, use the icons that you'll use throughout your marketing. So these things can like be in a corner or throughout your imaging, and we'll get into that in the next step. Again, here's just another example. I didn't do anything to these. These were pulled directly from the templates that are provided here in Canva, completely for free, okay? You can see that all you have to do is pull the ones that match your aesthetic, match your vibe, match what messaging you want to share and how you want to share it, and then you can personalize it from there. All right, I'm going to do a quick pause and check to see if there's any questions. Okay. If you set up your brand kit first, does the brand board pull in the fonts? Yes, it does. So let me show you how that works. So if I wanted to, let's say we're going back to the furniture. And this particular one, I have this font in use. What I can do is when I click on any text, the font will populate here. I'll click on that font and I'll scroll a little bit here. When you see this, this is your branded kit. And you're just going to go to, I believe we said this one. And it pulls the fonts that we created in that branding board. Great question. Does Canva have trifold? Yes, Canva does have trifold brochure templates. And we can, if we have time at the end, we will also go in and show you kind of some of the templates that you can use to kind of help you get started. Okay. Any other questions before we move into the next section? Yes, it does keep everything. If you're just getting started, the question was, as you're adding and creating, it keeps everything. Yes, it does auto save. If there's a glitch or anything, it'll populate right here saying, images not saved. If you're working on multiple devices, just be mindful to log in or log out. So you're only working in one. Otherwise, it'll kind of lock it up a little bit. If you have one username and multiple people using it, just be mindful that can kind of lock it up or trip it up a little bit. So be aware of that. Once you create your branding board, you want to go in and save it as your branding board. Anything that I don't want touched, I always do a bold template in front of it. And when I go to search for something in the home, when I search here, I'll put the word template and it'll pull up all the templates that I've created. And I know not to really mess with the templates that I've created. Okay. All right, give one more second for any more questions. All right. So you can just drop them in the chat. I'll try to refresh the chat after each segment. So the next thing people are always asking is, okay, I got my branding board, I've got my logo, I've got those things in place. So how do I start to create the content? And here's what's really important. I always start with a template. 9 times out of 10, what I do is I go to social media and I pull up the Instagram post square. The reason this is important is because you can resize anything that you create. But to start off, Instagram post square is kind of the universal image size that you can use pretty much in all platforms to some degree without having to resize it. So it's a great place to have your template as a starting point. So let's first talk about the type of content that you should be creating. And I'm going to kind of zoom out a little bit. You should be creating different types of content so that you can provide different versions or different messages to your personas. So when you're thinking about communicating, you should be thinking about speaking to one particular person. I know years ago, the old way of doing marketing was the bigger the net you cast, the better. So what we do is for everyone, but what happens is it feels like it's not for you. So you just kind of keep scrolling. So it's really important to be specific in who you're talking to and what it is that you want them to do. Here's where it gets tricky. If you have the bandwidth or the team to do this, each person or persona that you're talking to should have its own communication strategy, right? Because you want them to do certain things. So it's really important to understand that part of communication. The other thing that will help you in providing various types of messaging, making sure that you're not doing just the same thing over and over again, is to create these kind of 7 types of messages. So the first one is newsworthy. And so newsworthy is great, especially if you're just getting started or you're not sure what you should share, because you can actually hijack information from other people to help build your credibility. So if you are in the mental health space, you can rely on information from, different organizations or associations that already have built and established their credibility, and you can copy share their information and then just kind of make it your own content with your own brand. This is great for nonprofit alignment as well. The next one is educational. When I think educational, I immediately think like a carousel, like I want more and I'm willing to scroll to get that information. This is what we call long format content. So this can be things like infographics, FAQs, tips, tricks, hacks, things like that, that would pique someone's interest in the first post to encourage them to continue to look at the other images or scroll within your platform. The next one is interactive. And these are like polls or surveys. Would you rather, which do you prefer, or how do you caption this, image? So again, these are all kind of, I didn't really intentionally do anything cohesive, just because that's part of the training that I'm going to show you how to break it down. You're really just looking for the templates that you think you would like to use when you first get started. The next type of communication you should have is connecting or storytelling. For those of you that are in nonprofits, this would be your mission, your vision, your impact, your history. For those of you that are in more transitional businesses, this would be things like who your people are, who your team is, behind the scenes, why you got started. I want you guys to be really mindful. One of the things that I see that's not done very well is we do a lot of trauma promoting, especially in the nonprofit sector. So be mindful that your message is not promoting trauma, but it's promoting services or the result of services, things of that nature. And that's just kind of in how you do your storytelling. The next is inspirational. This is probably like the easiest one if you're like stuck and you have no clue what you should be saying or what you should be posting, because everyone loves a good quote. And if you think that the quotes are like overdone, just think about Hallmark. I think they have like 6 maybe 7 movie types that they just kind of keep repeating over and over and over again. And so you want to make sure that when you do your quotes, that it is motivating, you're speaking to a specific persona, and you're not, again, promoting trauma, but you're also being mindful that it's in alignment with your brand. Okay. The next one is promotional. And if you're in the business, and nonprofit is a business, it just files taxes differently, right? And so every business, every organization should be promoting some sort of transaction or some sort of service, program, product, things like that. And you need to make sure that you're putting these in. I see a lot of people that don't really promote their services. They don't really promote their product, or they don't make it easy for people that are reading the message to kind of jump in and, donate, or jump in and buy or request services or book an appointment. So make sure you include promotional posts in there as well. And then the last one is entertaining. So here's where I just say, move forward with caution, right? if your organization is in alignment with any type of yes or no on one side of the fence or the other, make sure if you're using entertaining posts that it's appropriate. I always say, let somebody else see your entertaining post before you move forward. Because what will happen sometimes is you will post something thinking that it's great and it's not, and then you have to backtrack or kind of get a PR person in there to, make sure that you are not, offending anyone on a different side of the fence. Your entertaining posts should feel good. They should help humanize your organization or your business. Nostalgia posts are really great. Some of my favorite entertaining posts are the ones that talk about, were you an 80s kid? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember those things, right? And so you want to make sure that when you do this, you are speaking to your people. This is also a great way to bring in any like holiday fun or National Day of. National Day of calendar is a great way to kind of fill in some of those spaces. And when you do that, what happens is you kind of humanize your organization, right? Like people know the great work that you do, they know your purpose, but people do business with people. And it's really important to make sure you humanize that. So I saw a couple questions about where is this and how to save it. So this is what I would consider your template for your messaging. So I usually call this messaging template when I create it for clients. And what we do, I'm going to show you what you're going to see is you're going to see this. This is what it looks like. So what I did was I just took the first square and I created newsworthy. And then I took 6 squares after that from finding a template here, finding a template that I felt would be easy to kind of manipulate. And I moved some things around. So I just moved where the square was or the size of the square, because I can always go in. Remember, this is a furniture business, right, that we're doing for this training, and I should always have furniture. So this, even though it looks like it's maybe a diner or a coffee shop or something, I really have the opportunity to talk about a collaboration. So this could be, we're so excited to provide furniture for XYZ nonprofit coffee shop. And I'm obviously going to highlight the furniture that we provided, even though I am having a full image of that coffee shop. So that's how it can be newsworthy. The reason that this is here, this section right here, is because you want to be able to have space for any text, and you also want to highlight any information, but you want to keep it small. So your text and newsworthy on your image should be relatively small or easy to manipulate. For example, again, we have the furniture. This color is still kind of in alignment with our green that we have here. This is actually, let me see if I can move it real quick. Just this that I made bigger. So don't be afraid to take, images and elements and move them around. Okay. And then when you press this little grid view here, that's how you get this spread. So what we do when we create it for a client is the first one is the type of messaging, and then the rest of these are templates that we'll use. Because remember, we're going to rename this really our template image folder once we are finished doing it. So when we talk about going in and personalizing it, and the reason that we had you guys put everything in that brand kit is because it makes it really simple to go back in. Just use this and change the fonts or the colors to what we want it to be. You can select change all, and it will change across your color pages. Now it's only going to change that specific color. If I did decide to go in and change this one, It's the same thing here as it is up here. Your most recent ones or your document ones will be up here, but just to be on the safe side, use this. Oops. Obviously, if you have photos, it's going to pull the colors from your photos. So all of the photos that we have in here, it's going to pull. And you can see, for the most part, we're pretty much in that kind of color block as what we decided would be our color scheme, our brand. So again, this is why it's important to have this branding board. I want to mention something. If your branding board is of photos and not people, don't start putting people in your photos. Keep it furniture. So you want to make sure that you're mindful that you stay in alignment. Again, this is why you want to use the branding board. Okay? That branding board is going to bring you back to this is what we want it to look like. And this is the aesthetic that we want it to go for. And if we have people, then we don't really have the aesthetic that we want. I'm certain that there's ways to find other images that you can use to get your message across. This is, again, what will help you stay in alignment. So I'm going to pause really quickly before we go any further. And if you guys have any questions, give you time to jot them in the chat. And let's see. Is it Charlene? Did I answer your questions? I've never seen this format page either. And it's just the, okay. Could you clarify a little bit? Yes, I am flipping between tabs. So when I go to my home, Canva home page, it's going to populate all the templates and things like that that I have worked on. So here's the recent things that I've worked on. You do need to have a couple of tabs open. Typically, I just have the branding board tab open so that I can reference it. And then I have whatever other template I'm working on when I first get started. Each tab is its own project or its own design, I should say. So every time you open up a new thing in Canva, so let's say if I opened up a new one, it's going to create a new tab. So you want to make sure that you are identifying what that tab is as soon as you open it, so that when you're looking at your tabs, you have all of them. These extra ones are for the training, but I wanted to already populate them so it'll be easier to get to them. So you should have your home tab, then you should have your branding board tab, and then you should have whatever tab you're working on in that moment. Oh, so the grid is simply the view that you're looking at. So right now, this is what most people see when they're creating images within Canva. Down at the bottom, there is an opportunity to see a grid view. You click on that, and it will show you this layout. Okay. No problem. What if your primary brand color is red? So if your primary brand color, Amanda, will you remind me what industry you're in? Nonprofit. Okay, so if your brand color is red, then I would suggest using red highlights. So let me just Let me go down to this one. I'm just going to use this one as an example. So you would find photos or images that have red in it. So you could go to photos, and then you could actually ask a Canva to find reds. You can definitely make it your brand color red. And apply. And then if you wanted to search, let's say, I'm just going to put community. So it pulls up icons and images that have red in it. Canva search is what you make it, right? So it depends on what you put in the search as to what it's going to populate. So don't be afraid to get something and change it up a little bit. So I'm going to do this really quick. So this was a very raw, like not really done well thing, but you see how you can take something that's really, you know, bright and bold and kind of tone it down. Obviously the image on the side would have to be something that goes with your aesthetic, but still don't be afraid to go in and manipulate it, or just simply have your text in that red color. Red can be challenging, but you would just use it as your accent on everything. So when we did, let's see, up here, this, you would change that to the red, right? You would change these small features to the red. And that's how you stay in that alignment. But you want to make sure that it looks that way in your branding board. You want to make sure that that's what it's like. So for example, this image right here is all red, or is all green, but that's a lot of green. But you can see in the image behind it, it's just pulling in samples. So when you create your branding board, remember what I said, you can create multiple ones. So you can have one that just has like your backgrounds that you're going to use. And you can also have one that has what your styling will look like. Okay. Let's see. Do you enter photos before creating branding board? So the branding board, let me do one from scratch for you guys. So let's go with one that has a lot of photos. So this is the template. I would just pull the template out, a template that you like, one that looks pretty to you, or one that looks like it would be in alignment with your organization. And then you can go in. These are actually images that are pulled right from Canva. So you can go here, and it's Heart Health Month in February. So we'll just pull some heart images just for the sake of training and put in images. You can also go to your uploads. Like if you have images that you love to use, have, you know, permission to use from your organization, and you can pull those images here as well. So the images are completely up to you as to what gets displayed and how it gets displayed. The branding board is to help you stay cohesive and aesthetically pleasing, so that, I'll give you an example. I know immediately when I come across an ad for Target versus Walmart, right? But it takes me a second when I come across an ad from Target versus Old Navy, because aesthetically they're similar. And so the reason for having this branding board is to stay cohesive in your messaging visually. and to make sure that, you know, you don't have kind of this type of aesthetic in one post and then a sticker or icon type of aesthetic in the next post. It's actually very confusing to your audience because they're looking for consistency. Okay. All right, I'm gonna give any more questions before we go into the next one. All right. So we talked about creating this template. This template helps you with your messaging as far as making sure you have a template for different types of newsworthy posts, educational, and so on and so forth. When you're creating these templates, just go in and personalize it. Brand it to your stuff, make sure the aesthetic matches. The reason that I like to use the grid view is because it's very easy for me to look at this and say, that doesn't really go with the aesthetic of my brand. I need to probably find something else, right? Or nope, that doesn't match because we should just have furniture in our photos. We agreed in our branding board that we weren't going to have people. And I know it seems like a really small thing, but if you look at some of the brands that you really love, they're really mindful about keeping that cohesive aesthetic. And this is an easy way for everyone to do it, whether it's one or two nonprofits. So the thing that will get tricky a little bit is your entertaining. I know this has furniture in it, but is this going to be offensive to anyone? Is it just a joke that maybe you and your staff are okay with? And then aesthetically, does this match what I'm doing here and here? Maybe not, right? The other thing is be mindful of your elements. This is, I'll go into it, a little tear cut paper that doesn't really match our elements that we want, right? This one, we've got some highlighter squiggles. Does that match the elements that we want? No, probably not. But what you can do is don't be afraid to pull elements that you love and have agreed to use from different spaces. So I can go in here and right click and copy this element. And then I can go down to this image, remove the element from there, and then paste my element. So again, I'm keeping with that cohesiveness, okay? All right, so let's move into the next section, which is now that we have the templates, now that we have a good, mix of messaging and how we're gonna message and what we're gonna say and what that's gonna look like, the next part is how do we get it out? Like, how do we figure out how to get this information organized in the way so we're not just doing, 6 newsworthy posts in order? And the way you do that is you basically copy paste whatever template you have, and you will just go in, hit file, make a copy. I'm going to delete this because I'll have way too many. Make a copy, and then again, you want to change. Sorry, I have that built in. It won't stop. You want to change the name. So this, you would put March content planning schedule, whatever resonates with you, but so that it makes sense to you. So you can see here that I put February training monthly planning. And this just lets me know that this monthly planning is related to this particular training if I need to reference it again. The same way that we went into the grids for the template, we're going to do that again for this. Here's where it gets great. So I already have the templates for what's newsworthy, right? I know that that's newsworthy because that's what we did in the other tab. Now I want to play around with where I have different things. So I need to make sure that maybe I have one newsworthy post in each week. So I'm going to go in, and you can either press and hold and move it to another week, or you can go in and duplicate it and then move it to another week. My suggestion, however, is this: try to keep it to 6 post, images, and then keep your first one as the week of posting. If you want to put in, the actual date of that week, you can go ahead and do that as well. This way, as you're moving things around, and let's just pretend this is not in carousel format, what you're doing is you're creating content for each week as you want it to look when you go to schedule. If you only have, let's say, 3 particular posts for week 4, it lets you know, all right, you're missing some stuff here, right? You need 3 more posts for this week, or however many you want to keep. But in order to keep the visual, have the first square be the week that you're working on, have the next 6 be squares that represent newsworthy, education, interactive, connecting, so on and so forth. This will help you not kind of post the same type of post over and over and over again. You can also go in and do what's called an evergreen. So if you have some posts that just kind of should be rotating throughout your calendar all the time, this would be how to contact us. This would be our programs that are listed. This would be information that's not changing on your website. Anything that you want to just kind of continuously repost over and over again, you can create that in your evergreen. Now, because we have the white image, we know that anything after that represents that group. You don't have to keep it aesthetic, but for me, for whatever reason, I really like to have the week at the beginning and then the 6th post. If you're going to do more than 6 posts that week, that's okay. Your first square should be the week of the schedule. Where are you saving this, or suggest to save in Canva and projects folder? Yes. So when you create, and I can go back. So when you create a design, let me go back to home real quick. You have a projects folder. Each project folder has its own group of things. So like this one has 181 things in it. And then you have designs. Your designs sit in your folder, or they just sit in a general space, right? In your all. So you have folders and designs. Brand templates is a little bit different. They're redoing that, so I wouldn't really mess with that too much. That's not necessarily your brand kit. To find your brand kit, you're going to hit the brand, and then you'll see all of the brand kits that you have available. Did that answer your question, Jennifer? Okay, good. I see the thumbs up. All right. So we've got a little bit of time. I want to show you a couple more things really quickly. So you've done all this work, you've got it all organized, you've got it all together. Some of us have an approval process where we are, or we just want to kind of, bring 2 brains in. It's better than one. So how are you going to share this, save this? What does that look like, right? So here's what I like to do, especially if I have to get approval from a client and they're not really in Canva, or I know it's going to be a stretch for them to figure Canva out. Most people are pretty comfortable with Microsoft PowerPoint, right? I'll go to share, and then I'm going to go to more, and then I'm going to scroll down, and right here is where it's at, Microsoft PowerPoint. And to just kind of avoid creating yet another one, I already did this earlier. And let me move this over. Can you guys see the Microsoft PowerPoint? Yes, okay, perfect. So I took what I had in that template and I turned it into a Microsoft PowerPoint. Now, as a team, we can talk about what we like or don't like about an image, right? if we need to change something, add something, edit something, or whatever. It's much easier for some people to work in Microsoft. So then the question is this: if you do the changes to this, how do you get those changes back into Canva? One, you can just make the changes in Canva and then update the notes here and then change the image, just save and change the image. Or when you save the Microsoft, let's say it's just 2 that you needed to revise. When you save it, I'm going to save a copy. You're actually going to save as a JPEG or PNG. And then it will ask you if you want to save just that slide or all the slides. So now you can save the images from there. You can also use Microsoft to layer some of the images that maybe you didn't see or find in Canva. So that's kind of a little bonus. It can get tricky, but just FYI. Okay. Another thing that you can do is, where are you going to save this? Are you going to save it in a Google Drive or in a Dropbox? If you download this, it's going to download as a file that you have to extract the images from. Just be mindful of that. If you send it in most of these messaging or design platforms, it usually shows up kind of as a link. So there's an extra couple of steps that you have to go through to really get this going. How many of you guys use Constant Contact for your emails? Wouldn't it be great if you could design your branding board and then upload it into Constant Contact? And now whenever you need a reference as you're working on emails, you have the branding board there for reference as well. So don't be afraid to explore what it looks like to save it different ways. It's just an opportunity for you to, use different platforms that you're already familiar with. Another thing I want to share real quick is people are trying to schedule. Be careful with this. It does work. It does work well. There's not a lot of integration involved. You will have to provide the text. Before you save it, you have the ability to rename this. We know the importance of naming our images properly. SEO, Google search, all those things, they read not just what the image is, but it also has the text, and it also has the file name. So if I go onto a Google search, let's say I named this San Antonio coffee shop with FYI furniture, just because I can't think of anything off the top of my head, and I go and I Google San Antonio coffee shop with new furniture, this image will populate because it's so specific to what the file name is. So always make sure you update the file name before you move into the next space. All right. I want to do a bonus really quick just to get you guys kind of more excited about Canva. I know this was a lot and everybody will be getting the recording. So Canva has a new feature. Well, it started back in December and it's called Canva Docs. And the reason that this is so powerful is because I'm not sure if you heard, but AI is kind of everywhere and blowing up right now. It took Facebook, I want to say 3 months, I believe, to get to 1 million followers. It took AI, the primary one, ChatGPT, 5 days. So AI is a really powerful tool if you're in marketing and communications, and especially if you're a one-person shop, to help you kind of get that stuff out. So what is this? What does this mean? Why do I need to use it? Why is it important to me? And I'm going to walk you through the power of AI within Canva. So you're going to go back to your home page. You're going to create, go to Doc. You're going to create a doc here. And then what you want to do, I actually have text saved. Sorry, I don't know why this keeps popping. I need to take that off. So let's see. Do I have a volunteer that would like for us to use their business? First one that lets me know business is the one that I'm going to use. You're like, what are you gonna do with it? Pet quotes. Okay. So you're gonna hit this plus button. You're gonna go to Magic Write. And you're gonna type in, let's say 10 quotes about pets. You're gonna hit enter. And it's going to automatically create those quotes for you. Eventually. Let's see. I might have to use one from a previous training. Oh, there we go. All right. And this is great, right? Because now we can kind of copy paste some of these quotes. And then we already talked about, our template and being inspirational. We can drop those quotes in there. Or what we can do is with those 10 quotes, come up here to convert, hit convert, and it's going to turn into a presentation for you. You can use your brand. Pick another one just so you can see visually what it could look like. Change up how you want to do it. And it'll create these for you. And so now you have those images, and you can obviously go in, rebrand it, however you see fit. This is a great way to get some of your information out. It also has other features that you can use. It doesn't do medical things very well, so I would stay away from that. But you're just going to go to Magic Write, type in what you want it to create. 10 or steps to making. And it literally will just kind of come up with things. Obviously, you want to fact check it. You want to make sure that it's appropriate. You want to make sure that it's in alignment, especially if you're dealing in a super specific industry or messaging. And again, it will pull it for you. And now you have like your carousel that you can do. Okay, and let me go to the chat really quick. Yes, you can do bulk create too. I won't go into that because we're out of time, but basically you're going to take a spreadsheet, save it as a CVS, and then you'll upload it and into a bulk, and it will provide the same type of presentation for you as well. Although created by Canva, do we need to acknowledge where they actually came from for legal reasons? So this is where you fact check it, Amanda, in response to your thing. This is why you don't really want to use Canva for anything that's super hyper specific or related to data that you can't fact check. So this is great for quotes or steps. Or if you're kind of stuck on what messaging you should use, you can ask it for suggestions. Good questions in or good prompts in, good results come out. We just did some like high level just so you can see that this function does exist. And where do we start for this? Lori, for this, what you're going to do when you're in your home, you'll hit docs. This will pop up. You click on this, and it will create this page. You're going to hit the plus for the Magic Write, type it in, hit enter, and then it will populate whatever you're prompting it to hit. Beverly, I will try to get recordings from the last one out to you guys as well as this one. The last one was recorded, and but it didn't sit on TechSoup. So we're going to offer this training again in March. I believe the date is March 9th. So when you get the recording, you'll also get, I'll put in the last month's recording, this month's recording, and the link for next month's recording as well. Sometimes it takes a little while to download the recording. So it might be tomorrow morning that you get that email with all the information in it. All right, I know we've hit the top of the hour. You guys have been great. I really love doing this training. I know we covered a lot. Go back, rewatch it, take from it what you can. If you have any questions, I'll be on just another minute or so to answer those questions. And I'm sorry about the dog. He's a little puppy that's spoiled, if you can hear him in the background. You guys are very, very welcome. You're free to go unless you have some questions. I'll stick around just another minute or two.
Nisi, I was wondering if I might ask you a question verbally. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Hi, my name is Tilly Josephson, and actually I work at Zoom Cares. So for the product we're using right now to host this meeting, I'm part of their social impact team. And
Nice.
I was on the call with my colleague Nicole, who runs our nonprofit product program, and we just saw this advertised and thought, what a great way to help nonprofits learn and build capacity. I was just curious how you came about doing this.
The training or with TechSoup? So the training, so because of my really unique background, I saw the gap. A lot of people that are in the marketing space for nonprofits, they typically start in the development space, which is more like the fundraising, business development side. And they've been given the extra hat of marketing, which is a completely different beast. And so what was happening is they had these really great opportunities to get their programs and fundraising out, but they were kind of missing the mark in how to communicate that. And so when I started doing Facebook pages for nonprofits as a nurse, one of the things that was really powerful is having that technical information, making sure that the language is right and appropriate. And then because I was a public health nurse, how you communicate to someone for conversion is much different than how you communicate for awareness, like brand awareness, right? And so I just kind of started filling that gap. Last year, I connected with TechSoup. I am a nonprofit myself, and so I use a lot of their services, and I'm super excited about always having those opportunities. And we just, it's a little outside of the box for TechSoup because they typically do, a little bit more software as far as the traditional ones. And all of the trainings that I provide are really about the person running the software and getting them trained up so that they can, expedite whatever, projects are in front of them. That's kind of how it got started.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're
love
welcome.
it. And I love that the trainings are run by nonprofits for nonprofits. I think that's what makes it so good. Anyway, thank you so much for the session. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. All right. Any other questions?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I'd like to know, where do we get the recording of this lesson today? Would we just go to TechSoup and find it somewhere?
It's going to be emailed to everyone. So just like you got those reminders about don't forget to log in reminders, you'll get that email as well. You'll get a final email. It'll probably come tomorrow. and it will have the recording link in that email.
Okay, so I had to step away a few times for, I had some interruptions, but I don't know if you already went over how to pull up more fonts. Is that in the lesson that you taught, how to pull up more fonts? Because I was just talking to someone that told me I don't know how to pull up more fonts on.
Sure. So they have a whole boatload of fonts, but you can also upload fonts as well. So if you click on a font, up at the top, there's a font drop down that will appear here. And you literally can scroll and scroll for days looking at different ones, or you can ask for something specific like a script, and it will give you, more of a narrow search, or
I don't
you
know.
can upload.
I don't know the font right now that she told me that there was a specific font. I guess Canva doesn't have it. So if Canva didn't have it and you could find it somewhere else, how would you pull it in?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of websites that have fonts, and you would just download the font from that website, and it would come up like a file here, and then you would just upload it, and then the font would sit in your space. There's one, let's see, and it won't really look different. So here I uploaded these fonts. So here's the font that kind of already was available in Canva. And here's the fonts that I uploaded for that particular business.
So you found it, you downloaded it to your computer, and then you went to Canva and you uploaded it.
Yep.
And so, and you uploaded it by, I'm sorry, I guess you just showed me.
That's okay, no problem. So what you'll do is, I can't think of the website off the top of my, there's multiple websites. Sometimes you can do it from Word doc, WordPress. I mean, there's just tons of ways. The easiest way that I found is I just literally Google the font, and I'll say download XYZ font, and I'll Google it, and I'll go to whatever pops up first. They give you the option to download from their website the font. You save it as a file, and then when you are needing to add it, you go to your brand kit, and you just upload the font. You don't even have to go to your brand kit. You can just upload the font.
I see.
And it will pull it here. So all of these right here are ones that I uploaded for this particular brand.
Okay.
And then if I need to change it, I can change it, but that's where it will sit. So if it's not a Canva font, it'll sit in your uploaded fonts.
Now, the last question is, are you available for additional questions, or is this it for you and I?
I do offer like a one-on-one, and let me just write down your name, Yvette Lino. And I will, in the link, I will also make sure that I have I need more, I have more questions kind of thing, so that you can ask those questions as well.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm gonna put my email in here so that you can see, you can email me too.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. And then where is our brand kit on Canva? Okay. So when you go home, over here to the side, you'll see brand. And you should have your kit in this space somewhere, if you've already made it. If you haven't already made it, there'll be a plus button up here, like add new, and you'll hit add new. This is a paid feature. So just FYI, Max, when you do that, it is a paid feature. Perfect. Okay. Any other questions? I've got another training for Chat GPT coming up. So I want to make sure I'm ready for them. Please feel free, email me if you have any additional questions. Be on the lookout for March's invitation as well.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Everyone have a really great day. Enjoy it.
You too.
Bye-bye.